Today, we're taking a look at Rust from Acustica Audio. Rust is a thrust to the days of Motown. This EQ, and I'm reading from script here, faithfully replicates the sound of an ultra-rare, all-analog, passive 7-band fixed EQ. Of course, Acustica Audio introduced some additional features with Rust to give us a modern design of it. So, let us take a look at the interface. On the left here, we have the input trim as usual. It's gain compensated like most of the Acustica Audio plugins. You have 7 fixed band EQs with an 8 decibel plus or minus gain adjustment and the output. At the top here, you have the preamp selector where you can turn it off, turn it on, and you also have 4 times oversampling. As well, you can turn the EQ off or on to use just the preamp by itself and what it offers. And then the extra ability here is you have mid-side options. So you can modify the sides or the edges, or you can modify the mid, right? It does come with a number of presets from a number of users here. And these plugins, or this plugin, is resizable. Right now it's sitting at the 1.5x size. So it can go smaller or it can go a little larger. All right. So that's it. That is the interface. It is pretty simple. Let us dig into how we use this. All right. Hey, that's me on the screen there. Now I'm going to change my hat here change my head here. Because I need to dress it up with something more appropriate. And I pray that everything is functioning and working. This is somewhat of a performance because it is live. So I'm doing everything that I would normally do during the editing. I'm doing it by hand. So it is live. So something can very well go wrong, but we pray that it does not. All right. So, Rust. What can I say about this plugin? Like some other people that I whose first impressions of the plugin was, I turned it on. I was like, "What is that? What is that?" Like it just was real weird sounding at first. And then I just got to using it. Never minding what I think I'm hearing. I got to using it. And wow, to me, this is kind of how the API graphic equalizer is, right? It's 10 bands, and they're proportional cues, right? So if I go back here, if you turn the knob a little bit, it's a broad stroke, but if you turn it all the way up, it narrows down the bandwidth. But this thing is so smooth that sometimes I didn't even recognize that I was using it because it is a passive EQ. But it is a cross between the API, what is it called? It's a graphic equalizer. It's a 10-band graphic equalizer. A cross between those two, or that, and the Pultec, right? Is very gentle in its strokes, and actually it's a cross between that, the API, a Pultec, and then I'm going to say gold, like the Neve 1073 EQ, in that it has a very distinct character about it. Very distinct, like you turn that knob all the way up to 8 on some of these things, and it's like, it's in your face. But anyway, so let us take a listen at what we have here. And actually what I'll do, because I did a number of things for this particular song here, I'm going to bypass everything I had for Rust here. And again, I'm doing this live, so some of the stuff I should have rehearsed it, but I did not. And before I even hit play on this, let me say this. I have not solved the crackling or the audio issues with the live just yet. I think it has something to do with the camera. I reduced the camera's its size to 1080. I had it at 4K, so that may allow us to go somewhat crack free here or pop free. But anyway, so you may hear some clicks and pops throughout the broadcast, just giving you a heads up in that regards. All right, I think I have everybody that should be bypassed. Nope. So unlock him here, because I did put an instance there, and I think that was it. Everybody else is good to go. All right, so this is what we have before we did anything with Rust. Baby. You know I'm cool when you're hot, smooth when I rock. Don't you move from that spot. We can't lose the whole pot. We gon' groove, they can't stop. Just us two on the spot. Pass my two, cause it's hot. Coming soon is my shot. All right, and then let us go back and engage all of the instances. Baby. You know I'm cool when you're hot, smooth when I rock. Don't you move from that spot. We can't lose the whole pot. We gon' groove, they can't stop. Just us two on the spot. Pass my two, cause it's hot. Coming soon is my shot. All right. Hey, stop. So much different when you're editing versus live. All right, so that's what we did. It's not extreme, but I'll show you what some of the things that we did here. So we'll start with the kick, of course. Let's see here. So with Rust here, oh yeah, we dug into this thing, but listen how smooth it is. So I'm using this wet mix knob here, right? So that it doesn't jump when I'm bypassing it, so you can really hear what's going on. See, it's real soft right here, but I gave it some more bite, right? So it cuts through a little better. So that's the kick. Now I had a rim shot at first, but I opted to go with a snare drum after I did some retweaking. But here's the snare, right? And I'm I'm guilty of always sucking the low end out of my snares. But that's before, and here is after. All right. The hats, I don't think we did a lot with the hats. Let's see here. Yeah, we just sucked some of the low end out of it, right? So, all right. It's a passive EQ again. Very smooth, very gentle curves. The snaps, and it would be best if I put that on solo. Doesn't sound like much, but I cleaned up, especially this here. One of the things I learned about snaps and claps is a lot of people think it's about high end. It's actually about the lower mid range for claps, because it's skin, right? And it has a lower frequency. The snap part of it, the top end is what cuts, but where the, let's say, the fundamentals of claps and snaps is in the lower mid range. All right, and then we have our claps. So let's see what those sound like. And I'm gonna have to move to a different section here. So here, and so this is before. And these are live claps. So if you're listening, like what I was trying to keep was the lower mids, right? But I wanted the real low stuff to come out. All right. And then of course, we use it on bass. Get over here. And it would help if I solo that. So this is before. This is after. So we picked it up on that bottom. As you can see, I turned all of the high up. So I wanted the thumb and the string, the thumb on the string to kind of cut through a little bit better. All right. So before again. Y'all excuse me as I mute my phone here. All right. And then what we have here is the horn. So this is before. Here's after. So we took out that low. Kind of wanted to accentuate the highs to cut through a little better. All right. The keys are actually live instrument there. So solo the keys before. Here's after. As you can see, we took out some of that low end, but it didn't suck the complete life out of the keys, right? What else? We used it on the background vocals. These were the last things that I was working on, so they didn't get the most attention from me, but that is what these sound like. Let me make sure I get a good section that has all of that running, which would be down here. Right here is good. They can't stop. Two on the spot. Pass my two, cause it's hot. Actually, soon is our shot. That should be. They can't stop. Two on the spot. Pass my two, cause it's hot. Coming soon is our shot. All right. So I still got some work to do on those. The last one that we use, of course, is our lead vocals. Wow. Really dug in on this one here, didn't I? So let's see here. I'll go to the top of the lead, which is right here. And let me make sure I solo it. Which means I'm gonna have to unlock that guy. All right, so this is before. You know I'm cool. Oh, wait. So let me mute the backgrounds. You know I'm cool when you're hot. All right. Smooth when I rock. Don't you move from that spot. That's after. We can't lose the whole pot. We gon' groove. They can't stop. So again, before. Just so a little bit covered. Cause it's hot. Coming soon is the shot. All right. So that's how we use this on this record. And let me just say this. What I really like about this particular plugin is, of course, the passive nature of it. We were kind of asking for a combination on the purple, where we have all of these different, because with you get the low, you get the high on the P1, right, on purple, and then of course you have the additional versions for the mid bands, and and then you have the filters. This kind of takes care of that for me, having these 7 bands. And then I also believe that there, and I was just I was doing my research on this and looking at a few Motown videos and how they were utilizing this, and found they built 40 of these things for multiple sessions. Wow. This really was a integral part of the Motown production, right? That they had these folks build these and use them in the way that they use them, even all the way down to some of the mastering stuff, cutting to vinyl, which I thought was pretty amazing. But there was a quote, not a quote, but somebody had mentioned Recording 101, I think it was, that the frequency bands that are used in Rust are like the fundamental frequencies you should learn. And I'm going to actually study that, because here's the thing. A number of things happen with this plugin. First of all, they released this on my birthday, which was Tuesday. I was plastered. And then the other thing is, it's from my hometown of Detroit, which was just friggin' amazing. But this is timely for the Mix Master release series, because I believe, and I have yet to use it, I've been trying to keep my hands off of that until it's time to get back into it, the Mix Master release series. These bands and what this is doing, I think I was trying to find the sound that this is providing with other plugins on that song. And especially this band here, this is my fundamental here. This is actually where that entire record falls on, the first single. That record falls, it heavily depends on this area here. And then somebody pointed something out in the Facebook group of how they were using this for vocals, but they were able to carve space. That's the word I'm looking for. So I'm really excited about digging into that part. So if I have 2 of these, let's say I have the guitar that I have on that record, and the vocals, which were the 2 that were fighting the most because they're the most consistent parts, I could scoop from here and raise in there to get some separation, right? Then I could boost here and lower there, to continue the pathway and not kill the sound. That's the difference. When you're using regular active EQs, it's very powerful in its nature. This being passive, it's a lot more gentle, and it's slopes, especially if you're sticking around here with the proportional Q portion, proportional Q, yeah, whatever. You got what I'm saying. And I think this will help really work that record to the point that I needed, that I was trying to get to, without doing a whole hell of a lot. And not to mention, let's see here, if I am not mistaken, because I know Acustica have been doing a lot of research and development and updating their plugins. Let's see here. So right now, it's kind of hard to see it. I don't know why I've never been able to get this thing to show much better than that. But let me see here. If I go 5.3, all right. I go here and I disable. So right now we're looking at What is C? I have no idea what that is. Anyway, so I'm gonna bypass, and I have some other stuff on here as well. So 20% we're looking at right now. I just want to see how much does this thing drop after bypassing these numbers. So not a lot. You know I'm cool when you're hot, smooth. Wow. So is it is extremely light on the CPU, which was one of the most recent findings from Acustica where they started doing some updates to some of the plugins. Was they found a way to reduce the CPU usage considerably, starting with N4 and that Nebula 4. That, oh my goodness, that helps out so much. So being able to use this on, especially in Reaper, of course. Oh, and we even have these three I can take off. Let's see. Yeah. Wow. So let me, while it's playing, don't you move from that spot. We can't lose the whole pot. We gon' groove. They can't stop. Just us two on the spot. Pass my tool, cause it's hot. Coming soon is a shot. So about 8%. You know we added. Come on. You know I'm cool when you're hot. Smooth when I rock. Don't you move from that spot. We can't lose the whole pot. We gon' groove. They can't stop. Just us two on the spot. So those 11. So we're looking at about 1% is what I'm guessing with each instance, which man, that's beautiful, because I know I can pile up plugins fairly high. So having that lower CPU footprint definitely helps to sell this plugin. It is a very characterful plugin. I know I use that word a lot, but there's only a few plugins that really have something distinct about them. Gold, which is the Neve EQ, is one of those. Especially the 1073, that thing will get in your face if you ain't careful. Of course, the Pultec ones, because of the sweetness, the gentleness of it, without killing your productions. The API, again, the parametric EQ, the graphic one. That one, I discovered that years ago on another developer's version, that just, I was able to dial in this sound on this person's vocals, and it was like, wow. So that's one of them. And it has that proportional EQ. And I want to make sure I'm saying this right. The proportional EQ is more of a reciprocal thing, right? So like each band affects the other band. So if you want to offset something, you can kind of do like that. So I'm thinking this way, but correct me if I'm wrong. Most of the Neve stuff has a very in-your-face rock and roll character anyway. But man, this thing is just, it is different. It is different than, in its design. A lot of people say all EQs are the same, and yeah, you probably could copy, bands and get it the same kind of way, but there's nothing like having something limited, right? In this case, 7 fixed bands where you don't have all of these extra options that does something very specific when you turn it up and down, that you don't have to chase that in something else. Just pull it up, use it, move on. One of the things I'm learning in this whole mix master release thing is that prepping yourself to disregard those things that are not necessary for that portion of whatever you're doing. Like, for instance, naming all of your tracks, putting them and getting them all organized, even doing some of the automation stuff, or getting all of your parts and whatnot lined up, so that when you actually are digging into the part of the mix that is necessary for you to focus on getting everything sounding good, all that other stuff you can disregard now, because you've thrown it out, not thrown it out the window, but you've taken care of it. The same with the gain staging. You gain stage all of your tracks, You don't have to worry about hitting any of your plugins on the inserts too hard, and you don't have to worry about your mix bus being pushed towards the converter. So it takes this little box of stuff that you would normally worry about if you don't take care of it, and it pushes that to the side. So now you have all this room left over to focus on the task at hand, right? That to me, when I'm talking about not having to try to find these EQ bands in something and you just have it there, that to me means that I can free myself to be more creative. That's a very part of whether you're producing, recording, composing, mixing, or mastering, is preparation is key. That stuff, that's getting stuff out of the way. You got trash all over the place, kind of like my studio apartment here. It's hard to step through. So you're so focused on stepping around things that you don't focus on the task at hand. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Real quick, if you are enjoying this video, hit the like button. And if you like what you see, make sure you hit that subscribe button and that bell. All right, let's get back to it. Anyway, this has been a very timely plugin to come in to play, because it's perfect for this record. I'm not saying I'm trying to get the Motown sound, but what this plugin offers, man, I don't really have it in anything else. There are a couple of other passive EQs out there. I'm not sure if white is a passive EQ or not. I think it is. It's just not tube based. Ruby is a passive EQ. I don't own Ruby, but that's another good one. That's along the lines of this, but it's a different setup, right? There are a couple of passive EQs within Cola, I think it is. And then of course, Amber has a passive EQ in it as well, but none of them have they don't all have that where you turn it just a little bit and you get a broad stroke, excuse me for hitting the mic, and you turn it all the way and you get a much narrower stroke. They don't have that in it. So that's what gives this kind of the upper hand. Again, like I said, it's lots of character, like the Neve stuff, with the proportional EQ, like the API stuff, and the passive function like the pull tech. So you get like these 3 EQs in one, and I think that's what separates it from the additional ones. But outside of that, if anybody has any questions, and I apologize, I haven't really been paying attention to the chat, only because I want to make sure I get through to the topic at hand here. So let's see here. My mother is in the chat, who's been trying to get in contact with me. I know I'm here. Let's see here. Pat says, I hope you're not uptight-ish because everything is all right. Yes, it is, sir. Yes, the plugin is extremely nice. You will see a lot of this on the Mixmaster release series. There's a couple of things that just came out that I've been reviewing, as you can see, that will be used on that series, and this is most certainly one of them. Well, I appreciate that, Sebastian. It was just something so what happened with this, I'm gonna tell you how I got started with this record. As a matter of fact, let me just put it on play while I'm running my mouth. I totally forget whose video it was, but they were attempting to recreate the Motown sound. And one of the songs, oh man, I can't remember what the song was, but one of the songs that started off with the snaps. It's an old Motown song, and a bass line. So that's what I did. I went in here and I started with some snaps and a bass line, and I was in the Motown mode. And most people know most of the records that I do are more ballad based. I usually don't do up-tempo records like this. So it was definitely an attempt to move towards that Motown sound, but it ended up turning into my own little thing. This may or may not go on the album. I don't know. We'll see. Yes, it was the Supremes. That's exactly what it was, sir. Thank you for that. I think it was Papa Was a... Yep, that's exactly what it was. Yeah, so I started the record off like that and was, you know, trying to go, because I knew I wanted something that had some of those elements in it, and I just really just had a bass line and the drums and the vocals. It wasn't until late last night that I added these weird keys in here because I couldn't find the chords, so I just put what I could just to fill the record up. It's for demonstration purposes. But it's funny, I've never done a record at 96 for my own purposes, and I think I may try to do a few more like this, but most of the stuff I do is ballad things. But yeah, this has been a very, very eye-opening just research, just looking at the whole Motown thing and how they did their records, and then to have this as a piece of that history, you know, at least the design of it, not saying that this was necessarily the Motown EQ, because I don't know exactly what, matter of fact, let me see here. I don't know if they sampled this from, I don't know where they sampled it from. Let's see here. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly where they sampled it. They may have sampled it from something more recent. But at any rate, it's based off the design of the original unit. So it does what the original unit intended. And for them to have 40 of these things built, you know, it was in use across the entire Motown scene. So that's quite interesting. And again, one of the main uses that I'm finding for this is that carving ability to offset the Heritage audio clone. You're right. That I think is what they may have sampled this from, unless they got a hold of an old school Motown EQ. But that ability to offset stuff and carve, I want to try it with this now, with the new one, instead of using some of the stuff that I've been using. Not saying I don't want to use those things, but again, that 320 is crazy, man. Oh my goodness. Matter of fact, up. Let's mute this. So I want to go back to, I want to mess around with it real quick here. All right. So on our lead here, come on, baby. All right, let me turn her up some. Look at that. That's all me. That's everywhere I'm at. So this is literally, when I was working on this first single, that frequency area was what I was concentrating on. So tough. And you might have seen if you dared to go through those live videos. So I'm really excited to use this during that, during the whole series in regards to that. All right, so that is it for the Rust review. It's funny because I actually found a few things while doing this review that I'll be using in the next Mixmaster release live video, and it has to do with this. All right, so I'm gonna close that out. One of my favorite third-party developers for Nebula has mic in, line in, bus, clean bus, and then master bus. And I pulled up all four of those on the master just to see what it would do. because I'm thinking to myself, that's the stages that some things are going through. Wow. That's all I can say. Wow. So you'll see that on the mix master release. I actually had to cut all of that out here so it wouldn't be popcorn during this view, during this stream. So I had literally a mic in and a line in on each one of the channels. For the vocals, of course, I didn't do it on the actual background vocals, but I had put it on the background bus, and I still have it here, a mic in and a line in on the lead. And when I tell you the record has this this sound to it, it's like, wow, yo. So be on the lookout for that. Let me see if there's any questions. I know I was doing that before, but my ADD gets in the way. Bville E asks, what DAW are you using? This here is Reaper. I'm going to screw up the save a new project, and I'm going to save a new project again. But this is Reaper with the white tie skin on it. Of course, the regular theme is this. This is the mixer screen. So of course with Reaper you have all kinds of ways to change the skin. I just absolutely adore the white tie skin. He does have a new one that somebody kind of thwarted him from finishing, and that's this one here with this skin, which I think is beautiful. But it's partially broken because it's just a beta. And then of course you have this skin, which some people may know what this is, right? You just have to have that. What else we have in here? Themes. There is the white tie bespoke, which I do like this one, especially when I want to see everything at once. There is a strip function that just puts so much stuff on the screen. Is it this one? It might not be this one. Let's see. I don't think it's this one. But anyway, yeah, this is Reaper. And you can actually create your own skins for this thing. It's pretty freaking amazing, in my honest opinion. Hopefully it doesn't crash on me right now. Looks like it wants to. There we go. This is the one with the skinny guys on it. Layouts, mixer panel. It says thin, I think. Where did it go? Thin, yeah. Default thin. Oops. It's not what I think it is. But anyway, yeah, this is Reaper. Again, with the Imperial skin on it. This is the one I typically use because I just like the way it looks, right? It looks like an actual piece of hardware gear. It's a mental thing. All right. Aquamarine Langevin EQ also I think might be passive. Oh, I'm gonna have to look into that because I do understand that this EQ, the Rust EQ, was based off of is it Langevin or Langevin? Well, whatever the name is, I'm gonna say Langevin EQ. It's a modified version of that. So that's actually interesting. I'm gonna have to look into that from Aquamarine, which I don't have. I have Ultramarine. I think it has a passive something in too, but I don't have Aquamarine. I think that's like that SPL kind of mastering compressor. Just didn't think I needed it, but I may get it down the road. Yeah, would you like to cut the bad low mids, build up around 200, 250, but that 320 is pretty close and warm. Also, I usually favor boosted mids around 1 or 1.5, but 800 is close enough also. Yes, sir, for sure, for sure. I think one of the things I had learned too on that Motown video was that them using these EQs, they would offset some of the, like they would cut some of the highs down with it. I don't know if that was a thing with the tape or not, but I think it was with the EQ, maybe a combination of the two. And then kind of recreated with a pull tech. And I think that's what I was trying to do on the the lead, but apparently I took that off. Yeah. But yeah, so one of the other things in here is, oh my goodness, this has blown my mind. This was one of the first plugins that they actually reduced the CPU footprint on, Crimson. And the pre alone is freaking gorgeous, man. But it's a VCA compressor, so I haven't jumped back into using the saturation portion yet because I haven't found a need for it just yet. I'm really just getting going with some things right now, but yeah. And then so I use that on the master, the preamp anyway. Then we threw some tape on here. All right, and actually I changed all that up, but anyway, that we did a decibel or two with magenta, and of course rust. We just cut back on some of the high end, because I'm noticing when I play this in the car, it's just a lot of stuff has a lot of high end, right? It could be my one bad ear. And then of course on the master bus we have a 4K, which I am a SSL nut. It is what it is. That's what I started. The first piece of analog gear I ever had the opportunity to work on has been SSL. All right, so we are 50 minutes into this, and I'm going to call it a day because this is a review video. But I do appreciate those who have chimed in and those who have watched. And again, like this video if you got something out of it. Subscribe if you want to see more. Definitely check out the Mix Master Release series, as I'm basically what that is I'm going into in depth into learning to become a mixing engineer. All right. Outside of that, I'll see you folks on the next video.